All right, and we are live. Welcome, everyone. I am with two of my favorite people. If you don't know me, my name is Sabrina Shafer. How are you? I am CEO of Transformation Continuum, an end-to-end go-to-market engine. And with me, I have Miss Teresa and Jillian. Teresa, for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. Teresa Vinklarek here. I work for Dell Technologies. I'm a mom of two boys and a creative prowess, I guess. And I have the pleasure to cross paths with Sabrina and Jillian through one of our employee resource groups, Women in Action at Dell Technologies.
And my name is Jillian Kaplan. I've done a few of these with Sabrina before. And we're going to talk a lot about conversations Sabrina and I have had in the past. But in real life, I had telecom thought leadership at a global level for Dell Technologies. And I'm extremely passionate about DE&I efforts and just making sure that we build a more inclusive community in everything that we do.
And today we're going to talk about, to your point, Jillian, we're going to talk about something that you might have seen us post about a few times, fearing forward. So thank you both for joining. I'm very excited. And this is a precursor to a new community that was actually the brainchild of our creative one and only Teresa. So I'm very excited to kick off that community. The information will be linked in the comments below, and we would love to have you join. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means, what that looks like, and how you can get involved in just a minute. So Let's get started.
So Sabrina, what's fearing forward? We're going to start there since you're the queen of saying, I'm fearing forward with this, and this is scary.
I just did my scariest fear forward this week. I just keep up in the ante. So really all started when, my CMO at the time reached out and said, Sabrina, you're a female millennial in tech. You've got to get out there. You've got to, and the whole idea, as he was saying that, terrified me. I thought that sounds awful. That's the last thing I want to do. And so I reached out to you, Jillian, and started talking with mentors and started slowly but gradually, due to the pushing of people like you, and in large part you. In fact, there's times I'm thinking about posting something or would never even post something in a million years. And you're like, Sabrina, just post it. So anyways, that's how this concept really started, is, kind of leaning into things that scare me as a way to be less controlled by things that are scary. And the unintentional consequence of it all is it starts to become kind of fun in a very twisted way. And you start to really see, like, I can do things that are really tough, and things that you thought before were impossible become exciting, and you kind of want to try tough things. I never knew that this was going to be a consequence of fearing forward, but in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Yeah, and it's funny, I do get random texts from Sabrina saying, I can't post this, I can't do this. And I'm like, just have to rip off the Band-Aid. And we talk about that during our workshops, that if you continue to do this stuff over and over, it kind of becomes a muscle. And it's never easy, but it gets easier. Mm-hmm. And Teresa, Sabrina mentioned this is your brainchild, and something Sabrina and I sort of latched onto and said, sure, we'd love to do this together. And a lot of what we do is about women helping and supporting women. And so we're excited to, be a part of this with you. You've hosted and attended many Subtle Brag workshops. How did this come to be, like, especially as a result of the workshops? And why do you think, like, building a community is so important and sort of a good next step for what we're doing here?
Absolutely. Well, first off, I love our origin story. What can happen when you bring people together in a safe space and get them talking? The idea of creating a fear-forward community really stems from a story that you shared, Sabrina, and the response of the workshop participants. It was in that moment that I saw the potential to expand the great work that you and Jillian were doing and move past the brag into the brave, using your experience with fearing forward to build a community of growth and inspiration.
So I love that. You just did it again. Brave into the brag into the brave. I love that.
That's our transition statement. But when I think about the art of the subtle brag workshops that y'all have been doing, I've seen the numbers. Interest in this topic of framing and using your voice continues to grow. And I think that this is because people inherently want to be heard and feel seen. But for many people like myself, the fear of getting it wrong prevents us from being brave in the moments that matter. And statistically, visibility is the number one thing that can progress your career. So that's why creating a community of support, a community where people can be held and encouraged to take their place in the arena is so important. Even more so when doing something that is scary and forces them to grow. When I'm thinking about the past 2 years and how everything unfolded, there were political unrest, civil awakening, and simultaneously the collapse of traditional structures that represented community to many. Since that time, people have been challenged to regain the sense of belonging and all that entails. Community is what allows people to grow in thought and confidence. So it allows people to understand that failure is just a lesson on the path to success and to learn from people that, have gone before them. Like that's what I'm learning from y'all too, right? Also, most importantly, it humanizes the experience of living in a digital age where most interactions are impersonal and over text. So my hope is that through this fear-forward community, people are able to reconnect to others seeking growth and support, and in kind receive that same support. So with that, I'm going to ping a question over to Ms. Jillian. So Jillian, what's going to be in this community?
We don't really know. No, just kidding. But I do want to point out that we don't have everything all figured out, right? So when Teresa came to us with this idea, we're like, where do we host it? What do we do? I did some polls because I was like, I don't have any money to do like a survey, like a formal survey. Let me just do some polls, right? And overwhelmingly a response that was LinkedIn is the correct place to host a community. People didn't want other social media platforms. They didn't want it off social. They felt like if it was going to be sort of a focused community on sort of their career, right, that LinkedIn was the right place for them. So we have a ton of resources that we have already launched. We have 3 guides that Sabrina and I published. We have the workshops that we've done. I will tell you that those workshops are things that we do one-on-one, interactive. They are not recorded for a variety of reasons. But we've also been putting together a lot of other resources as people come into the community, such as like books and other things they can tap into. And we are working on right now what we're calling like a branding guide. So really like we gave you the like what you need to be sharing and how to fear forward and how to really understand like how to brag. But like what does that look? When do you post? What does that look like? How do you brand yourself beyond just single posts? And that's what we're working on as we speak. So that will be launched as well. And we're going to have monthly themes in there so that like we're going to be able to say like, okay, this theme of the month is XYZ, something you can work on. It's going to focus on making sure you're sharing something that makes you uncomfortable every Friday. And the 3 of us will be doing that. But also people are going to be able to go in there and say like, I'm really struggling with how to word this, either a conversation with their manager, with their peer, like an actual conversation, or like, this is something I want to post. Like, how would you talk about this? So that was like something Teresa touched on. Our sort of biggest piece of feedback was like, how do we continue this conversation? Like, it's great to get this in our workshop. You know, we actually, it's not a talk it's a conversation. And we walk people through how to write a subtle brag. It's like a step-by-step process that we've outlined. And then we have them write their final brag, whether it's a conversation brag or something that they want to share on social. And they were like, yeah, but how do we keep doing it? Right. And I think that was the piece of feedback Teresa had, because Stell's hosted like, I don't know, 3 or 4 workshops at this point. And people were like, yeah, but how do we continue? Right. So that is really where this came from. And like I said, we don't have everything figured out, but we have a ton of amazing resources that we've already created and a ton in the works. And we're going to hopefully create a community and a cadence and be able to build that sense of belonging, which is something Teresa touched on. And I just want to be clear that while our focus is on DE&I and women in tech, this community is open to everyone. And we'd love to have everyone join. So really, like I'll say, you know, Sabrina pointed out, the link will be in here. Join us. It's free, just like everything else that we do. We're going to figure it out as we go. We're going to lead it, but the goal is to make it interactive. It's just like our workshops. It's not going to be a talk at, it's going to be about, let's figure out how to do this together and support each other. Maybe we'll build some mentorships out of it. I don't know, but every time I think that like, oh, we're done now, something else.
Nope.
Yeah, something else comes and I'm like, oh yeah, let's do that. Right. So I'm personally super excited for the branding guide because it's like my personal number one request. People like, how did you become an influencer? Which first I laugh because I'm like, I'm not an influencer. And second, I'm like, I have no freaking clue, but I've actually outlined like a step-by-step together with Sabrina on how to do it, right? And how to really learn how to tell your story. And obviously making sure you're following all the rules that are in with your company, but it's really important that you self-promote as well. So.
And I love how you said that, Teresa, where it's, you know, because sometimes I think we get stuck that self-promotion is maybe bad or bragging or whatever, but you brought it back to, and this is why I'm such a proponent of DEI, is because I think people think, oh, it's just a pat on the back or a nice to have. It's a business requirement, and increasingly so. And a way of, you know, visibility, I think you said it best, is a way towards promotion. In fact, it's one of the fastest ways. So I'm glad you said that, Jillian, and Teresa, I'm glad you know, kind of outlined that for us too.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're excited. We have no idea what'll come of this, but
that's how it all started. We had our first guide. We didn't think we were getting 12,000 downloads in 2 weeks. I mean, that's how it all started. And I'm so glad that you said we don't have it all figured out. That's the other part that I've learned through you and our relationships and conversations is, you know, you don't have to have it all figured out. And that's part of fearing forward, because if you wait for the moment to be right, you'll be waiting forever.
I was talking this morning with someone, and she said that she was working on like a LinkedIn Live series. And she says, you know, I have a bias towards action. She's like, I don't want to sit around and wait till I have everything all figured out. I just want to take like calculated risks. I'm not saying like don't have any idea what you're doing, because we've spent a few months now building the bones of what, you know, the bones, would that make sense? Yeah. Like the backbone of this community, what it's going to look like, what we think we're going to do with it. But we probably don't have all the answers, and that's okay. And we could sit here and wait until we had all the answers, and then we'd never launch anything.
And Teresa wouldn't have it. You know, she just would not have it.
She'd be like, do something now.
Well, thank you both for your courage, for your passion, for your knowledge and insight. Teresa put together some unbelievable themes, including one that I've been racking my brain on for the last couple of days since we've talked, Teresa. I'm going to be sharing my fear forwards for 2023, and I'm scared about that too. So here we go, fearing forward with fear. And thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart. I'm so excited to see what comes next with the community. And for those that reach out with questions, you're welcome now to still reach out, but now you have a community where you can post those questions and, you know, have support from everyone. So with that, more to come. And thank you both for joining.
Thank you. We'll see you in the community. Bye.
Bye.